All right, so today we're going to talk about how to maximize everyone's workout plan, because there's just so much confusion out there, and people see this all the time when they go to the gym. People think that running on a treadmill 3 times a week for 30 minutes is just the gold standard, and we just got to clear up some confusion and just kind of show you what the science says. And when we're going through what activities, what workouts are the most effective, we got to first find out what we want to look like and what we kind of want to model. And so if you take the Olympics, this is an extreme example. If you take Olympic athletes, for example, if you see more explosive athletes who do pole vaulting, long jumps, sprinting, you're going to find out that they're going to look like the people on the top, where they're going to have more muscle tone. They're going to just have a lot more healthy muscle mass. Conversely, if you look at the more endurance athletes, and you're looking at the people who do long aerobic activity at a steady pace, like marathon running, you're going to generally see these people look at like the bottom. And so most people would agree that they kind of find the top portion a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. And when you see that, you got to look at how they are training, because if you want to be successful, you got to model the successful. And so when you look at the top people, they're doing more explosive types of workouts. And there's a reason for that. Because when you take an entire comprehensive program, most people will say it's strength training, aerobic activity, stretching, and core. They'll kind of divide it into 4. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add another one, and that's high intensity interval training. And that one in itself, it's kind of a blend between strength training and aerobic activity, but it multiplies the results and just becomes so much more effective. So if you had to choose just one of those 5, for sure the first one is going to give you the most bang for your buck for incorporating the shortest amount of time. And today we're actually going to talk about the top 2 today. We can't talk about every single one, but we're going to go over strength training and high intensity interval training. For simplicity, I just call it HIIT training. Just makes it easy. High intensity interval training, high intensity interval training. So HIIT training, easy. So what is HIIT training? HIIT training is where you kind of cycle through short bursts of very intense exercise, followed by periods of just gentle recovery periods. So generally you're going to go all out maybe for 30 seconds, follow that with 1.5 minutes of rest. And you're kind of going up and down, up and down. It's not a steady state cardio. Because the problem is that these steady state, people who are doing just steady intensity cardio, they did a 12-week study, and what it was is the steady state cardioers, they were doing 30 minutes of activity 3 times a week. The high intensity group were doing 20 minutes of activity 3 times a week. Okay, they covered them for over 12 weeks, and what they found, they did pre and post measurements, what they found is that both groups had really similar weight loss. But that was the only thing similar between the 2 groups, because the intensity group, they had 7 times more fat loss and they added 2 pounds of muscle. So you're seeing both. You're seeing fat loss and muscle growth. The steady state cardio group actually lost 1 pound of muscle, which again makes sense, because do you think the people on the bottom have a lot of muscle mass? No. In fact, they're small, so you think, okay, they might be toned, but what's there is not muscle. Because that long distance running actually is very hard for the body with all that cortisol production to maintain any type of muscle mass whatsoever. And so when we're talking about excessive aerobic activity, I just want to clarify, it's excessive aerobic activity. I still run 4 miles 1 to 3 times a week. Aerobic activity is great, but excessive aerobic activity is a big problem. And these are these marathon runners, because most people think marathon or a marathon run is like the epitome of health. That's on most people's bucket list. I'm going to run a marathon, which is cool if you do like 1. But if you're doing that all day, every day, you're going to completely cause a lot of problems, including but not limited to, you're going to decrease, for guys especially, testosterone production, big time. You're going to decrease your immune system function, because you're really putting your body in such a stressful, chronic stress response when you're doing a steady state cardio, because all that cortisol you're being released. And so it's going to downregulate your immune system, and it's also going to increase tons free radical production. Because in the high intensity group, you have these short bursts of resting. Well, when you allow your body to rest in between your workouts, your body's actually to recuperate that free radical that's produced in the body. So you're able to kind of basically downregulate that aspect of it. Whereas if you're just going for 30 miles, your body doesn't have time to counteract that free radical production. So it just keeps growing, growing, and growing, and you just go more in that stress response, more, and more. And so marathon running actually causes a 7-fold increase in heart risk. And what you even hear people who are just especially hugely trained athletes actually dying of sudden death when they're in the middle of a marathon. And these are trained athletes. In the London Marathon since 1981, 11 runners have died. And these are professional athletes, have just died. You know, you're not going to find that in any other group. And although that's rare since 1981, it comes out to about 0.8 deaths out of every 100,000. It's rare, but it's still there. You know, and there's a reason why, because your body is really not made to do that. So we gotta, when we're looking at why the high intensity group is so much more beneficial, why are they getting so much better results, so much more muscle mass, we gotta do a little physiology lesson. We gotta look at a muscle fiber. So if you take your bicep, for instance, or take any muscle and you do a cross section of it, you're gonna see these muscle fiber bundles. Over half of those are going to be fast twitch muscle fibers. We call those type 2s. Less than half are going to be type 1s. Those are your slow twitch muscle fibers. So slow twitch and fast twitch, think about slow movements and fast movements. A steady state cardio exercise is a slow movement. You're doing a slow, steady pace for a long period of time. So you're only working the slow twitch muscle fibers. You're only working less than half of your total muscle fibers. So when everyone's saying, oh, I'm going to go run for 45 minutes because I'm going to work out my heart muscle, they're really not working out their heart muscle. They're working about 40% of their heart muscle. They're only working the aerobic processes, the type 1 fibers of their heart muscle, which means 60% of that heart muscle is not even being used. So that's huge. So that's a complete misconception. And what's so good about HIIT training is that you're engaging all your muscle fiber types, and you completely maximize every single one. You maximize your aerobic completely, your type 1 and your type 2s, your fast twitch. So you're maximizing the entire picture, which is why it's so effective. And so if we look at what a muscle looks like, just cut out a muscle, you'll see all these bundles of fibers. Again, over half of those are fast twitch. So if you're not doing this high intensity exercise, you're missing the whole ballpark here. You're missing the entire thing that you could easily take advantage of if you just knew how to do it. And we're going to talk about that. And so if you actually use all the muscle fiber types, if you're using your slow and fast twitch, that's why you get all these benefits. Because once that happens, you're going to massively increase your human growth hormone production. And that's the absolute key. As far as I'm concerned, every person's goal in their exercise program should be to maximize human growth hormone. Because that's your longevity hormone, that's your fitness hormone, that's what keeps you looking, you know, anti-aging effects, longevity effects, you know, strength, longevity, anti-aging, healing, growth, repair. It's all about human growth hormone. And so you see adults usually in their 40s, 50s starting getting injections. Well, the injections are not good because you can't make an identical hormone in a lab that's made in the body. You just can't do it. You know, our bodies are very intelligent. They make certain types of hormones. You can't artificially make those. So it's best to increase your natural production. So they did an 8-week study by Phil Campbell, and he found out that 8 weeks of high intensity training, you have an increase of human growth hormone by 771%. That's like unheard of. Unheard of. And so if you combine that with fasting, which causes a 2,000% increase in human growth hormone, you're really going to get so much bang for your buck if you combine those two things. And so basically the more HGH you have, you can naturally produce, guys and girls, you're going to have more robust healing and more robust health and strength. Also, anti-aging. Now, human growth hormone is going to cause a lot of anti-aging effects, but even more so, let's take a look at the physiology of a cell. In a cell, you have a nucleus. If you take out that nucleus, you're going to see chromosomes. Well, those chromosomes are made up of DNA, and at the end of each DNA strand, you have something called a telomere. And a telomere is kind of like a little cap that goes at the end of a DNA, and it basically serves as protection from any like free radical production. So, when you're born, these telomeres are a certain length. And each time, as you age, and each time that cell divides, those telomeres get shorter, shorter, and shorter. And by the time it reaches a certain length, that's when we essentially die of old age. So basically what that means is if we can prevent massive cell replication, we'll be able to combat the effects of aging. because we're going to keep those telomeres at a longer point.
Are those two guys the same age?
Exactly, yeah. They're both 30. No. No, but seriously though, the guy on the left-hand side, he is 104 years old.
Whoa.
And he took the 100-meter record for centenarians, which is people over 100. Yep, 100-meter dash, 29 seconds, baby. There. Now, what accelerates that telomere shortening is like poor lifestyle factors, trans fats, free radical production, stress, again, poor food choices. What actually decreases the rate of telomere shortening is high-intensity interval training. So again, not only is it causing a longevity and an anti-aging effect with the HGH, but also it's shortening, or it's decreasing the telomere shortening length, basically. You're preventing that shortening, so you're going to have a lot more longevity. And also, what a lot of people care about is you're going to maximize your caloric burn, because there's something called EPOC, which is excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. It's a period of 2 hours after a workout, and it's directly related to intensity. And basically what it is if you work out hard, right after that workout is when your body's trying to restore its energy levels, restore its oxygen levels to get to pre-workout status, basically to get your body to homeostasis, to that balancing point. And so when you're working out, you're damaging tissue, you're damaging muscle tissue. It's good damage, it's healthy stress, but right after the workout is when our body's trying to recoup, and as that recuperation process is taking place, you're burning a ton of calories for your body to heal. And so it's directly related to intensity. So the higher intensity the exercise is, not the longer duration, the higher intensity, the better EPOC effect you're going to have, which means the more EPOC effect, the more calories you're going to burn. So it's a win-win situation. And you really can't deny the other benefits. I mean, you're talking about massive cosmetic benefits. And not only does every single person want to feel good, they want to look good. It's human nature, and you're absolutely going to look the best you've ever looked if you incorporate this stuff, because you're going to maximize your muscle mass growth, you're going to maximize fat loss, and you're also going to have, firmer skin, less wrinkles. It helps with all of that stuff, and human growth hormone is a big part of that. You're also going to optimize your efficiency. Obviously, less time, takes 20 minutes, 3 times a week max, and you're going to get way better than any other thing you could do. 2 weeks of high intensity training is similar to 8 weeks of endurance training. And that's a study done from the American Academy of Sports Medicine in building up aerobic capacity. So 2 weeks versus 8 weeks. I think everyone would want the 2 weeks and get even better benefits. And of course, you're gonna have higher energy levels, higher libido levels, everything. And so what's cool about this is you can apply this to any workout. You can apply it to any cardio machine, elliptical, treadmill, the stationary bike, the rowing machine. You can even do it with squats and push-ups, swimming, everything. Jump rope, thank you, I know. So when you apply it, what it looks like is, this is the most common way. You can vary the time cycles a little bit, but basically you warm up for 3 minutes. Say, you're gonna do something. Then for 30 seconds, you go all out activity. And you're talking as much as you can go. By the end of that 30 seconds, you should be breathing heavy. Our muscles should be burning, we should be sweating, and it should be very tough. You shouldn't be able to go in another second, basically. Then following that 30-second period, you rest for 90 seconds. You rest for 1.5 minutes. Now we generally want to work up to repeating that 7 more times. So 8 times total. But beginners, they can obviously start off with just 2 to 3 cycles, and that's perfectly fine. And it's still going to be more efficient than doing steady state cardio. And so let's take sprinting, for example. And sprinting is a more advanced workout, but you could even apply this to like elliptical, jump rope. You can do it anything. We're going to warm up for 3 minutes. So that might consist of foam rolling, a little stretching, little light jogging. After 3 minutes, you run as fast as you can for 30 seconds. After that 30-second period, you shouldn't be able to go any more. And then you walk for 90 seconds. Run as fast as you can for 30 seconds, walk for 90. So we're doing this constant thing with our heart rate that's really giving us all the benefits. After 7 times, or after however many times feels right to you, you stop, your post-workout, you need at least 48 hours for this of recovery. This is something that if you're still feeling soreness from this, which you will feel sore, you don't want to go back out and force yourself 2 days later to do this. This is something you want to feel super fresh, almost at 100% to do this again. So when you're conditioned, usually it takes about 48 hours. If we're not, it can take up to 4 to 7 days, and that's fine, starting off with, because there's other parts of the exercise program. It's not just this, but this is the main one. And so those of you who don't like the idea of doing any cardio machine, sprinting, you can do this with walking even. As simply as walking briskly for 30 seconds, followed by 90 seconds of walking slower. But that varying intensity, especially if it's on the beach, barefoot, getting that grounding effect, absorbing those negative ions to help clean the blood, cause a huge anti-inflammatory response, you're going to be getting so many benefits, and you're going to still get that increase in growth hormone. Now, you may not have that same growth hormone, you might not have that 771% increase in growth hormone, but you're absolutely going to be stimulating the same pathways using both muscle fiber types. So you could do it with walking. So that basically just means there's no excuse. People say, oh, high intensity, I don't want to breathe heavy, They like to go on the treadmill and have a full conversation. I see these females, they're like talking about their day. It's a full-on thing. So
They don't like to sweat.
they don't like to sweat, exactly. You will be sweating with this, guaranteed. Oh, good. Yeah. So we talked about the first one. So now we're going to go into the strength training. And what I like to do personally is I implement the high intensity interval training principles to my strength training, which means I go all out. I go out till failure. So I apply those same principles to strength training. So what it looks like is the first method is going to be a little different. It's actually called super slow weight training. And you're thinking, how can that be intense? Well, try it and then come talk to me. And then we'll have another story. Okay. But this type of technique was invented by a doctor named Dr. Doug McGuff. He's a fitness trainer, doctor. He owns his own gym now. It aggressively works your skeletal muscle, and it aggressively works it to complete fatigue. And basically what you're doing is you're depriving your muscles, because you're going so slow, of any type of momentum. And so your muscles have maximum number of cross bridges, which means your muscles are going to be completely under tension this entire time. It is hard as heck. And what's also cool is that since it's so slow, it is absolutely 100% safe. It's very unlikely you'll ever have an injury with any type of this. And so what it looks like, again, let's go over the steps. You're going to start by lifting the weight as slowly as possible. So just imagine like doing a bicep curl. It's easy to picture. So you're going to start lifting the weight as slowly as possible, and you're kind of shooting for roughly 4 to 5 seconds. So starting up here, you're going to go up for 4 to 5 seconds. You're going to count. Once you get to the top, you're going to be going down 4 to 5 seconds. Now, this specific training method invented by Doug McGuff, he recommends that you don't go all the way down. You keep it at about a 5 to 10 degree bend, so you don't fully elongate the muscle. And the reason is because at the most elongated and the most shortened position, the muscle's at its weakest point. We'll get into that in a second, but so if you're doing bicep curls, I'm only really going down to here to keep my muscle under that tension. And we repeat that basically as much as we can until we can't do anymore. Now here's the kicker. If I'm on my, my 8th bicep curl and I'm here, don't jerk yourself to get it all the way up. But what you want to do is you want to hold that period and hold it for about a maximum, up to 5 seconds, and just hold it even if that weight's not moving, because those cross bridges are still attached. You're still getting all those benefits of activating the type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. And so you want to pick a weight where you can get about 4 to 8 reps. If it's too light and it takes you about 12 reps, just know for future reference, use a heavier weight next time, because we want to shoot around 4 to 8 reps of this. Because again, it takes 10 seconds to do each repetition, and you're going to be completely fatigued after that. And then once you do that, you immediately switch to a different exercise utilizing a different muscle group. So here, this is like the type of 5 basic movements Dr. McGuff recommends. Now you always want to switch it up, but this is just a general idea. You start with a lat pull down or a pull up, chin up, then you go to a chest press, then you go to an upright row, overhead press, and leg press. You'll notice that all of those, they work consecutively different muscle groups. So I'm never working back 2 in a row. I'm never working biceps 2 in a row. Ideally with every exercise you're working everything, but as a primary muscle group, you're not working the same ones back to back like a superset. So here you start with the lat pull down. So again, you're going to go here, But with the lat pull down, remember, you want to, instead of starting up here, keep your arms bent just a little bit. You bring it all the way down, 4 to 5 seconds, all the way up, 4 to 5 seconds, but stop right until your arm gets about 5 degrees in length. Then you go to a chest press, same thing. Go to a row, that's a cable row, go to an overhead press, and go to a leg press. And you only do 1 set of each, and then you're done. And it takes about 15 to 18 minutes to do. And that's it. And you will get a better workout than you being 2 hours at the gym doing this stuff. And you're gonna be sweating, for sure. But again, you don't have, you can, it's up to you if you want to do like a leg press or a real squat. It's actually kind of nice to use machines, especially if you're new to this, because you don't have to think about different types of form or anything. It kind of takes the thinking out of it at first, so you can just experience what it's like. And you're still going to get a killer workout with the machines too. Eventually though, as we add up, you can do more of the free weights and more stuff like that. Now, what I personally like to do, and you know, Dr. McGuff says avoid the elongated and the shortened positions, or the elongated especially because you're at its weakest point. So what I personally do as well, I mix it up, but I'm figured if it's at its weakest point, I want to take advantage of that, because if it's at its weakest, that obviously has the most room to increase its potential as well. And it's also going to help with muscle building and everything. So how I do it similarly. I don't do a quite 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down. I'm more of like a 2 seconds up, 3 seconds down type of guy. If you're doing squats, 2 seconds down, 3 seconds up. But I go all the way to the elongated position, and then I contract my antagonist muscle group on the way down. So what that means is that if I'm doing bicep curls, when I go down, I go all the way down, and then I contract my tricep, which puts it at a full elongated position, and I go all the way up to its maximum ability. And by utilizing that shortened and elongated positions, you're actually going to get way more benefits. And I just found that from experience, and also there's other techniques that go by this principle. You know, Dr. McGuff isn't saying he's against going in the elongated position, but his program he invented he just didn't have that in there. But I'm saying take advantage of that fact that it's weak there and utilize that. And so you're going to do basically the same thing. I also do more than 1 set of each exercise, but when I superset, I will do a back exercise, then do a chest exercise. I'll do different muscle groups back to back. I won't do the same ones because I'm going till complete failure with each exercise anyway. So I'm applying it in that way. I'm applying it in that high intensity interval training style of going to complete failure. And you're going to get great results that way. So again, after you're done with this, you've got to have recovery. At least 2 full days before you even do the same muscle group. A lot of times people think more is better, and a lot of times that's not the case. You know, 3 times a week for this. But when we're looking at the big picture here, if you combine this with intermittent fasting, that's really where the results magnify. You know, and for instance, if you work out in a fasted state, that means that your body is already depleted of glycogen. If your body's depleted of glycogen, your body has no choice but to start burning and breaking down its fat stores as energy during your workout, which is so awesome. If you eat a pre-workout meal, which is a big mistake, big mistake, you're going to give yourself all this glycogen, so all you're going to use in the workout is your glycogen. So good luck getting to your fat stores. You know, so pre-workout meals, absolutely big no-no if you want to get good results and you want to have more human growth hormone. Because also too, any high carbohydrate meal increases insulin and increases a hormone called somatostatin, which directly inhibit human growth hormone production. So low carb is the way to go, but I would recommend no pre-workout meal. If anything, just take some branched chain amino acids, you know, which have no sugar. You take that in to kind of stimulate protein synthesis, but again, no pre-workout meal. And then after, when I'm in my fasting period, right when I'm towards the very end of my 16-hour fast, that's when I work out. So I work out in a fasted state, so then my first meal is right after. And that's the most important meal. And I try to keep it fairly low carb. If anything, the only carbs I'm getting is from berries and a banana. Other than that, it's greens, my grass-fed whey protein, and I add a little bit of other stuff too, but that's the gist of it. And so the important thing is though that you're always switching it up. And that's just the first 2 types of your comprehensive exercise program because you really have 5 things. You know, I didn't talk about the core exercises, the stretching, the aerobic exercise. That's all important too. Like I said, I run, I switch it up. If I'm sore, I'll go to the beach and run for 4 miles, so I'll get my aerobic activity then. I'm not doing anything excessive, but I keep it under, 30 minutes or so. In terms of core and stretching, I do that mostly in the form of yoga and foundation training. That'll be a good subject for a future talk, foundation training. Aerobic, I run on the beach. And so, everyone, let's stand up, because just for coming out, I'm going to show you a cool foundation training technique that's really going to activate your core muscles, and it's also going to be great in between adjustments to keep your body at its best. So, what we're going to do here, this one looks really cool too. You're going to take your hands and you're going to bring your hands all the way out. Darren, you know what this one looks like. Squeeze the shoulder blades together as far as you can, and then bring them down. So it's like you're putting your shoulder blades in your back pocket. Now, this is the fun part, especially for the guys behind in the back row. You're going to stick your butt out as far as you can. Now, I like to think of this. I like to think of a car door open, and you got to close it with your butt without moving your feet. So you got to push your butt back. Now, make sure your back isn't rounding like this. You have this braced back. So you're pushing your butt back as far as you can, keeping a slight bend in the knees. Never let them go past the ankles. Squeeze. Lindsay, do this too. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Thumbs on the outside. Squeeze those shoulder blades and push that butt back as far as you can. Now, if you're doing it right, you should feel tension in the glutes, the hamstrings, and the low back. And if you don't, push the butt back further.
And the pins and screws.
And the pins and screws, yes, exactly. But that's the best one you could do because you're utilizing the entire posterior chain. Every single back muscle from your head to your toe, you're utilizing in that exercise right there. Practice that. If you have any questions, come talk to me. But that's a talk for the day. Here's a list of references. When it goes on YouTube, you can utilize each one of those. But I urge you guys to try this because it is so beneficial, and you're just going to be aging the best out of everybody, and you're going to be healthiest. Thank you. Questions? Push-ups, you're going to go down for 5 seconds, up for 5 seconds. And I guarantee you, if you do that, you're not going to be able to do more than 10. It's hard as heck. And remember, if you can't do any more, try not to jerk yourself, just hold that position. So your arms start fidgeting, and you're done. And then you can go and do a different exercise. Yeah, but you can do the same thing at home, it's easy. Yeah.
What's the benefits of the branched amino acids?
Branched chain amino acids, especially if you're fasting before your exercise, which I recommend, that's basically going to give your body some protein building blocks to increase protein synthesis during your workout. It basically just has a muscle sparing effect because in a fasting state, it's rare, but sometimes your body can go after protein, which is in your muscles, and you don't want that. So if you're in a fasted state, it's a good idea to take a high quality branched chain amino acid supplement. It's just a powder, tastes god awful. Just mix it with some water and just throw it down.
And actually, that led me to the next question. Animal protein versus plant protein, is there a better one, or are they about the same?
If you're not vegan, do grass-fed whey protein. It has immunoglobulins to stimulate the immune system. It increases glutathione. Right post-workout, I make a shake and do the whey protein just because it's easier to digest. But I'm also a big advocate of grass-fed, high-quality meats as well. Yeah.
Someone with weekend adrenals, would HIIT training be a little bit too intense to start with?
Well, if you have weak adrenals, you're in a chronic stressed out state. Well, the best form of counteracting your stress is in the form of exercise. So I would say no. I'd say that's going to be another stressor to the body, but it's going to be absolutely a good stressor for the body. And it's actually the only thing that's actually going to help you recover to get back to normal. Yeah. Things like, avoid activity and stuff, you want to be wary about that advice. If it's anything healthy that your body's needing, you got to do it. Yeah, so don't be hesitant of doing things that your body actually needs.
So you're resting for 2 days or whatever. Do you do anything else in that time, like yoga or something for recovery, or just nothing at all?
Oh no, because here, and when you're looking at like this slide there, there's 5 components. So like I said, I do the high intensity training about twice a week, because that's where my body kind of starts to feel like it's ready for that again. But in the meantime, I work out every day though. I'll go run on the beach, and I'll kind of get my, just aerobic activity in. I'm doing yoga 2 to 3 times a week, so I'll get some of that in. I do foundation training when I can. So you're splitting it up, or I'll just do simple strength training and just change up the routine a little bit. Muscle groups that aren't sore, I'll just kind of work those out a little bit. But you want to have a very big variety of training techniques. You don't need to work out every day, just do a couple days a week. But there's really 5 components you want to work on. But the number one, if you're going to add one thing, do the first one for sure.
Won't you have compromised strength when you actually go to work out? Like, won't you?
Oh, at first? Yeah. You're going to feel, right at first, you'll feel weak because you don't have that glycogen to use as energy.
Right.
But what's cool is once you do it for about a week or two, your body becomes adapted at using fat as energy. Because right now, as a population, most of us are overweight. And even though we have a ton of fat on us, we don't know how to use it for energy. We only know how to use carbohydrate for energy because we haven't trained our body to actually go after our fat stores. Well, intermittent fasting kind of reprograms the body into learning how to use fat as energy. So in that process of it kind of changing that energy cycle, it might take 1 to 2 weeks. But even if you're not feeling as much energy as you would with the pre-workout meal, just know that the benefits are going to be magnified big time.
Okay, so just
So,
sacrificing one thing.
yeah,
Eventually get another.
you're going to get more and more. Once your body's able to use fat efficiently as energy, then you're going to have the same amount of energy
Yeah.
or more.